If you were about to marry the love of your life, standing just days away from the happiest moment you had dreamed about for years, and suddenly discovered that the man waiting for you at the altar had been lying to you for months, what would you do? Would you cry and cancel everything? Or would you let the wedding happen and turn it into the worst day of his life? Because that's exactly what I did. My name is Emily, and 2 days before my wedding, I found out that the man I trusted more than anyone else in the world was cheating on me. Not once, not by accident, but for 6 long months. Everything in my life felt perfect back then. The venue was booked months in advance, the decorations were finalized, and my dream white dress was hanging carefully in my closet like something out of a fairy tale. Every little detail had been planned exactly the way I had imagined since I was a little girl. I remember standing in front of the mirror that morning, holding the fabric of my wedding dress against my body, smiling to myself. I could already picture the aisle, the music, the flowers, and Daniel standing at the end of the stage, waiting for me. Daniel. Even saying his name now still makes my chest tighten. When we first met, he felt like everything I had ever hoped for. He was confident, successful, charming, the kind of man who made everyone in the room feel comfortable. He opened doors, remembered small details about my life, and always knew exactly what to say to make me smile. He made me feel safe, loved, chosen. And that's why what happened next destroyed me in a way I never expected. It started with a single message. I was sitting in my bedroom, surrounded by wedding magazines, texting my bridesmaids about final details. My phone buzzed softly on the bed beside me. An unknown number. At first I ignored it. I thought it was probably spam or some delivery notification. But then it buzzed again. And again. Something about it made my stomach twist. Finally I picked up the phone and opened the message. The text was short. Before you marry him, you deserve to know the truth. My heart skipped. I stared at the words, feeling a strange wave of unease crawl up my spine. Then another message arrived. This time it was a photo. My hands suddenly felt cold as I tapped the screen to open it. And the moment I saw it, everything inside me froze. It was Daniel, standing inside what looked like a hotel lobby. And he wasn't alone. There was a woman standing beside him, smiling, her hand wrapped tightly around his arm. The same arm he used to wrap around me every night. For a second, my mind refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. Maybe it was an old picture. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe it was nothing. But deep down, I already knew. Before I could even process the image, another message came through. This time a video. My fingers trembled as I pressed play. The video was short, but long enough to shatter my entire world. Daniel walked into a hotel hallway, laughing softly, holding the same woman's hand. He leaned closer to her, whispering something that made her laugh. Then he pulled her into an elevator. And just before the doors closed, he kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. Not an accidental moment. A deliberate, slow, intimate kiss. My vision blurred instantly. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. It felt like my entire body had turned to stone while my heart pounded violently against my chest. I stood up without realizing it, my legs moving on their own, and walked straight into the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and leaned against the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The same face that had been smiling just minutes earlier now looked pale and broken. My eyes filled with tears so fast I couldn't stop them. My hands shook as I typed a reply. Who is this? The typing bubble appeared almost instantly. Then the reply came. I'm the woman your fiancé has been seeing for the last 6 months. 6 months. The words echoed inside my head like a gunshot. 6 months meant he had been lying while helping me pick wedding flowers. 6 months meant he had been cheating while tasting wedding cake samples with me. 6 months meant every promise he made, every hug, every kiss, had been built on lies. I slid down to the bathroom floor, clutching my phone tightly as tears streamed down my face. My chest hurt so badly it felt like something inside me had cracked open. Another message appeared. I didn't know he was engaged until yesterday. When I found out, I looked you up. You deserve to know. For a long moment, I just stared at those words. Part of me wanted to scream. part of me wanted to throw my phone across the room. But another part of me, a quieter, colder part, was beginning to wake up. There was a knock on the bathroom door. "Emily? Are you okay?" Sarah's voice came from outside. My best friend. The one person who always knew when something was wrong. I wiped my tears quickly, stood up, and unlocked the door. The moment Sarah saw my face, her expression changed instantly. "What happened?" she asked, stepping closer. I didn't say anything. I just handed her my phone. She watched the video once, then again, her face turning pale with shock. "Oh my God," she whispered. Silence filled the room. Heavy, uncomfortable, painful. "You can't marry him," Sarah finally said. Her words felt like knives, because deep down, I knew she was right. But canceling the wedding felt impossible. My parents had spent months preparing. Hundreds of guests were flying in. Everything was already paid for. Everything was already set. Everything was already perfect. Except him. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring into the darkness, replaying every memory we had ever shared. Every smile, every promise, every "I love you" now felt fake. By morning, something inside me had changed. The tears stopped. The shaking stopped. And in their place, something colder took over. Something stronger. Something dangerous. Because that's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to cancel the wedding. I wasn't going to cry in silence. I wasn't going to let him walk away like nothing happened. No. I was going to let the wedding happen exactly as planned. And then, in front of everyone he cared about, in front of his family, in front of mine, I was going to expose him and make sure the happiest day of his life became the worst day he would ever remember. And the most terrifying part? Daniel still had no idea that his perfect wedding was about to turn into his public destruction. That morning, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone while sunlight slowly filled the room. Everything looked peaceful on the outside. But inside my chest, a storm was building that no one else could see. Sarah sat beside me, watching carefully as I scrolled through the messages again. More photos. More screenshots. More proof. Every image felt heavier than the last. Daniel laughing with her. Daniel holding her waist. Daniel sitting across from her at restaurants he had promised to take me to, but somehow never had time for. The worst part wasn't just seeing him with someone else. It was realizing how normal he looked, how comfortable, how happy. Like I meant nothing. Like the life we were building together was just another lie he had memorized. "Emily," Sarah said quietly, breaking the silence. "You need to decide what you're going to do." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I kept scrolling until I reached the end of the messages. Hotel receipts. Late-night bookings. Dates that matched perfectly with the nights he told me he was working late. I let out a slow breath, placing the phone down on the bed. "I already decided," I said calmly. Sarah looked at me confused. "You did?" I nodded slowly. "I'm not canceling the wedding." Her eyes widened immediately. "What? Emily, are you serious?" "I'm completely serious," I replied. She stood up, pacing the room nervously. "You can't marry him after this." "I'm not marrying him," I said quietly. She stopped walking. "Then what are you doing?" I lifted my eyes to meet hers. "I'm finishing the wedding, but not the way he expects." For a few seconds, she just stared at me, trying to understand what I meant. Then slowly realization spread across her face. "You're planning something," she whispered. I gave a small nod. "Yes." Her lips curled into a faint smile, the kind she used to have when we pulled bold stunts back in college. "What kind of something?" she asked. I leaned forward slightly, lowering my voice. "The kind he'll never forget." Sarah sat back down beside me, now fully focused. "Tell me everything." I picked up my phone again and opened the last message from the woman. "I'm going to need her help," I said. Sarah frowned. "You trust her?" "No, honestly. But I trust the truth." I typed slowly, thinking carefully about every word. "I don't want to fight you. I want to expose him. Will you help me?" For a moment, nothing happened. No typing buble. No response. Just silence. My heartbeat grew louder with every passing second. Finally, the typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. And at last her reply came. Yes. I'll help you. I exhaled deeply without realizing I had been holding my breath. Sarah leaned closer to read the message. Oh wow, she murmured. This is actually happening. Yes, I said quietly. It is. The next few hours were spent collecting everything. Every screenshot. Every video. Every receipt. We organized the files carefully, labeling each one with dates and times. The more evidence we gathered, the calmer I became. Not because the pain disappeared, but because now, I had control. Later that afternoon, Daniel texted me. Hey love, how's my beautiful bride doing? I stared at the message for a long moment. Just reading his words made my stomach twist. But I forced my fingers to move. Good. Just busy with final details. Almost instantly he replied. Miss you already. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you. The words felt disgusting now. Still, I typed back. Me too. A lie, just like his. An hour later he showed up at my door unexpectedly. When I opened it and saw him standing there, smiling like nothing was wrong, my heart slammed hard against my ribs. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me. Hey, he whispered softly. For a second I froze. His touch felt unfamiliar now. Cold wrong. But I forced myself to hug him back. Because the plan depended on it. Hey, I replied quietly. He pulled back and looked at my face carefully. You look tired, he said. Everything okay? I forced a small laugh. Just nervous, I said. Big day tomorrow. He smiled warmly. That's normal, he said. Trust me, everything's going to be perfect. Perfect. That word made my chest tighten. If only he knew what perfect really meant now. He leaned forward and kissed my forehead gently. I love you, he said. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Fake. Poisoned. But I smiled. I love you too. The lie burned my throat as I said it. After he left, I locked the door and leaned against it, letting out a shaky breath. Sarah watched me carefully. How did that feel? She asked. I closed my eyes for a moment. Like hugging a stranger. I whispered. That evening, we visited the wedding venue for the final walkthrough. Everything looked beautiful. Soft white flowers lined the aisle. Golden lights shimmered across the ceiling. Elegant chairs stood perfectly arranged in rows. It looked like a dream. But to me, it felt like a stage. A stage where the biggest performance of my life was about to happen. I walked slowly toward the front, pretending to admire the decorations while secretly scanning the room. That's when I saw it. Mounted high above the stage, facing directly toward the guests. The projector screen. My pulse quickened instantly. That was it. The moment I saw it, the entire plan became clear in my mind. I turned to the event coordinator with a polite smile. Hi, I said casually. We were thinking about showing a short slideshow during the reception. Childhood photos, memories, that kind of thing. She nodded immediately. That's a lovely idea. Many couples do that. Can we test the projector? I asked. Of course. Within minutes, the room lights dimmed slightly, and the large white screen flickered to life. A blank white surface filled the front wall. Huge. Impossible to ignore. Perfect. I stared at it, imagining tomorrow. Not wedding photos. Not happy memories. Evidence. Truth. Betrayal. Exposure. Sarah leaned close to my ear. This is going to destroy him, she whispered. I swallowed slowly. Yes, I replied. It is. That night, back at home, my phone buzzed again. A message from the woman. I'll be there tomorrow. I stared at the screen, feeling my heartbeat pick up again. Tomorrow. Everything would happen tomorrow. Daniel believed he was about to live the happiest day of his life. But he had no idea that the aisle he was so excited to stand on was about to become the place where his entire life fell apart. And the most dangerous part of all was that I was done crying, done forgiving, done trusting. Now, I was ready to make him pay. The morning of the wedding arrived faster than I expected. I woke up before the alarm even rang. staring at the ceiling while the early sunlight slowly filled the room. For a few seconds, everything felt quiet, almost peaceful. Then reality came rushing back. Today was the day. The day everyone believed would be the happiest moment of my life. But for me, it was the day everything would finally come crashing down. My phone rested beside me on the nightstand. I picked it up and checked the time. 7:12 a.m. Just a few hours left. My stomach twisted with nerves, but strangely, I wasn't scared anymore. The fear had faded overnight, replaced by something colder, something steady. Control. A soft knock came from the door. "Emily? You awake?" Sarah's voice called. "I'm up," I answered quietly. She stepped inside carrying 2 cups of coffee. Her eyes met mine instantly, searching my face. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I'm ready." She handed me the coffee and sat beside me. "This is the last chance to stop," she said gently. "If you want to cancel, we can still do that." I stared into the steam rising from the cup, thinking about everything that had happened over the last 2 days. All the lies. All the messages. All the betrayal. Then I shook my head. "No," I said firmly. "I'm finishing this." Sarah studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. "Then let's make sure everything goes exactly as planned." The next few hours passed in a blur. Hairstylists arrived first. Then makeup artists. The room slowly filled with voices, laughter, music, the normal chaos of a wedding morning. Bridesmaids moved around excitedly, snapping photos and fixing decorations. To them, it was a celebration. To me, it was the calm before a storm. As the makeup artist carefully applied the final touches, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. White dress, soft curls, perfect makeup. I looked exactly like the bride I had always imagined. But inside, I felt like someone else entirely. Stronger, colder, focused. My phone buzzed quietly on the table beside me. I picked it up when no one was looking. A message from the woman. "I'm here." My heart skipped once. Everything was moving into place. I typed back quickly. "Stay near the back. Wait for my signal." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. "Got it," she replied. I locked the phone and placed it back down carefully, forcing myself to breathe slowly. "Emily," one of the bridesmaids called. "You look stunning." I turned toward them and smiled. A perfect practice smile. "Thank you," I said softly. Minutes later, Sarah walked over and leaned close to my ear. "Everything's ready," she whispered. I nodded once. "Good." Outside the room, I could hear faint music starting to play. Guests were arriving. Families were gathering. The ceremony was beginning. Time was running out. Soon, a staff member knocked gently on the door. "It's almost time," she said with a warm smile. My chest tightened slightly. "Almost time." Sarah reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. "You sure about this?" she whispered. I looked at her, then at my reflection in the mirror. Then I nodded. Yes. With slow steps, I walked toward the hallway leading to the ceremony room. Every step felt heavier than the last. As we reached the entrance, the sound of guests talking filled the air. I peeked carefully through the small opening in the doors. Rows of people filled the room. Family, friends, co-workers. Everyone dressed beautifully, smiling, chatting, waiting to celebrate love. None of them had any idea what was about to happen. My gaze slowly moved to the front of the room. And there he was. Daniel. Standing confidently at the altar. Smiling. Looking proud. Looking happy. Looking completely unaware. He adjusted his suit slightly, laughing with his best man. His posture was relaxed, his face calm, like a man about to win the greatest prize of his life. For a split second, anger burned deep inside my chest. How could he look so calm after everything he had done? How could he stand there, pretending to be loyal, pretending to be faithful? Sarah leaned close to my ear again. Last chance, she whispered. I shook my head slowly. No. The music shifted. That was the signal. The ceremony was beginning. The doors slowly opened. And suddenly, all eyes turned toward me. A wave of gasps filled the room. People smiled. Phones lifted. Cameras flashed. To them, I was the beautiful bride walking toward her future. But inside my chest my heart beat pounded like thunder. Boom, boom, boom. Each step down the aisle felt unreal, like I was watching someone else walk instead of myself. Daniel's face lit up the moment he saw me. His smile widened. His eyes filled with admiration. And for a brief second, he reached out his hand slightly, like he couldn't wait to hold mine. That smile made my stomach twist. Because now, I knew exactly what kind of man stood in front of me. A liar. A cheater. A stranger. I reached the front of the aisle and stood across from him. Close enough to see every detail of his face. Close enough to smell his cologne. Close enough to feel the tension rising in my chest. You look beautiful, he whispered softly. The words felt fake, empty, meaningless. Still, I gave a small smile. Thank you, I replied quietly. The officiant began speaking. Guests listened carefully. Everything moved forward exactly like a normal wedding. But underneath the calm, the pressure was building. Every second felt heavier than the last. Every word spoken felt like a countdown ticking closer to zero. I glanced briefly toward the back of the room, and that's when I saw her, standing quietly near the last row, watching, waiting. The woman, the one who had sent me the messages, the one who knew the truth. Our eyes met for a split second. Then she gave the smallest nod. Ready. Everything was ready. My heart pounded harder than ever, because now there was only one moment left. One final step. One final signal. And Daniel, still smiling, still confident, still clueless, had absolutely no idea that in just a few seconds, his perfect wedding was about to turn into his worst nightmare. The officiant continued speaking, his voice calm and steady, echoing gently through the room. Guests listened quietly, smiling, completely unaware that the next few minutes were about to change everything. Daniel stood across from me, holding my hands, his thumbs moving slowly against my fingers like he always did whenever he wanted to. Look affectionate in front of others. If only they knew. If only any of them knew. My heart pounded so loudly I could feel it in my ears. Every second stretched longer than the last. I could feel the weight of every eye in the room focused on us, watching, waiting for the moment we would say our vows. The officiant smiled warmly and turned toward Daniel. Daniel, he said, you may begin your vows. Daniel took a slow breath, squeezing my hands gently as he looked into my eyes. I never thought I'd find someone like you, he began, his voice soft and emotional. From the moment we met, I knew you were special. You brought light into my life when I didn't even know I needed it. Guests smiled. Some nodded. A few wiped away tears. I felt nothing. Just cold, steady silence inside my chest. You've been my best friend, my partner, my everything, he continued. And today, standing here in front of everyone we love, I promise to be faithful to you, to honor you, and to love you for the rest of my life. Faithful. The word echoed in my head like thunder. Faithful. I forced my lips into a small smile, but inside, something dark twisted tighter. The hypocrisy was unbearable. The lies were unbearable. And yet, I stayed perfectly still, waiting. The officiant nodded with approval and turned toward me. Emily, he said gently, it's your turn. The room fell completely silent. All eyes moved to me. Every guest leaned forward slightly, ready to hear the bride's heartfelt vows. I took a slow breath. This was the moment. The turning point. The second where everything would change forever. I looked directly into Daniel's eyes. He smiled at me, warm, confident, trusting. He still believed everything was going exactly as planned. I swallowed slowly, letting the silence stretch just a little longer. My vows, I began softly. My voice sounded calm, steady, almost gentle. But inside, my pulse hammered violently against my ribs. I spent years dreaming about this day. I continued. Years imagining what it would feel like to stand here in front of everyone we love, ready to start a new life together. Guests nodded quietly. A few soft smiles spread across the room. Daniel squeezed my hands again, completely relaxed. I believed in you, I said. The words felt heavy, real, painful. I trusted you, I added. Daniel's smile widened slightly. And I thought I knew who you really were. The tone in my voice shifted just slightly, enough to make Sarah glance toward me from the front row. Daniel didn't notice. Not yet. But sometimes, I continued slowly, the person you trust the most turns out to be the one hiding the biggest secrets. A faint murmur spread quietly through the crowd. Confusion. Uncertainty. Daniel blinked once, his smile tightening slightly. What do you mean? He whispered under his breath. I didn't answer him. Instead, I turned my head slightly toward the back of the room. That was the signal. Sarah stood quietly from her seat and walked toward the side wall, her movements casual enough that most guests didn't notice. Daniel shifted nervously, sensing something was wrong now. Emily, he whispered again, his voice tense. I slowly released his hands. Then I turned back to face the guests. You see, I said clearly, raising my voice just enough for everyone to hear. Before I could promise my life to this man, I discovered something. The murmuring grew louder. Confused faces turned toward one another. Daniel's breathing grew faster. What are you doing? He hissed quietly. I ignored him. Behind me, the lights suddenly dimmed. A soft flicker appeared across the front wall. The projector turned on. At first, the screen stayed blank. White. Silent. Then the first image appeared. A photo of Daniel, standing inside a hotel lobby, holding another woman's hand. Gasps erupted across the room. Sharp. Loud. Uncontrolled. Daniel froze. His entire body stiffened beside me. What the hell? He whispered. Another photo appeared. Then another. Daniel laughing with her. Daniel sitting across from her at dinner. Daniel holding her waist. Murmurs turned into whispers. Whispers turned into shocked voices. Oh my God. Is that Daniel? What is happening? Daniel turned toward the screen, his face draining of color. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Then the video started playing. The same video I had watched in my bathroom just days ago. Daniel walking into a hotel hallway, holding her hand, smiling, leaning in, and kissing her. A loud scream came from somewhere in the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered against the floor. Daniel stumbled backward slightly, panic flashing across his face. This isn't what it looks like, he blurted suddenly. But no one was listening anymore. Guests stared in disbelief. His parents sat frozen in the front row, their faces pale with shock. My parents looked horrified, confused, heartbroken. I turned slowly back toward him. 6 months, I said quietly, my voice cold. 6 months you lied to me. Daniel shook his head wildly. Emily, listen to me. I can explain. Explain what? I snapped, my voice finally rising with emotion. That you promised to be faithful while sneaking into hotel rooms with another woman? He ran his hands through his hair, breathing fast, completely unraveling now. This is a mistake, he said desperately. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I replied sharply. Behind us, more images continued flashing across the screen. Messages. Receipts. Proof after proof. Every lie exposed. Every secret revealed. And then, from the back of the room, she stepped forward. The woman. The one he thought he had hidden from me. The crowd parted slightly as she walked down the aisle slowly, her expression tense but determined. Daniel saw her, and his face collapsed completely. No, he whispered. Pure panic flooded his voice now. Guests gasped again as realization spread through the room. Everything was unraveling faster than he could control. His perfect wedding. His perfect image. His perfect lies. All collapsing in front of everyone he cared about. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something shift inside me. Not sadness. Not pain. Power. Cold. Controlled. Unstoppable power. Because this moment, this humiliation, this destruction, was exactly what he deserved. The room was no longer a wedding ceremony. It had turned into chaos. Whispers turned into shouting. Phones were out everywhere, recording every second. Guests stood up from their seats, some covering their mouths in shock, others arguing, trying to understand what was real and what wasn't. Daniel stood frozen in the center of it all. His perfect image was gone. His confidence was gone. All that was left was panic. This is insane, this is not real, he kept repeating, his voice breaking. Emily, please stop this. But I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just watched him. For months, I had looked at him with love. Now I was looking at him with truth. The woman slowly reached the front of the aisle, stopping a few steps away from him. Her eyes were sharp, but there was pain in them too. I didn't know he was engaged, she said loudly, her voice shaking. He lied to me too. A new wave of shock moved through the crowd. Daniel turned toward her immediately. Don't do this, he hissed. We talked about this. No, she interrupted sharply. You lied to me, just like you lied to her. She pointed toward me. The entire room went silent again. Daniel looked around helplessly, now trapped. His voice dropped. Emily, please. I can fix this. I finally stepped forward. Slow. Controlled. Every step echoing across the floor. You had 6 months to fix it, I said quietly. He shook his head quickly. I made a mistake. That wasn't a mistake. I cut him off. My voice was calm, but deadly steady. That was a choice. Every single day. Every message. Every lie. You chose this. His lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, he had nothing left to say. The guests were completely silent now, watching. Even his parents didn't move. I took a slow breath and looked at him one last time. I trusted you, I said. My voice softened slightly, not with love, but with finality. I was going to build my life with you. A pause. Then I shook my head. But you killed that the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. His eyes filled with panic. Emily, please. I love you. That word. Love. It used to mean everything. Now it meant nothing. I gave a small, almost sad smile. No, I said quietly. You don't. Silence hit the room again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Final. I slowly stepped back, releasing the last thread that connected me to him. Sarah walked beside me, gently taking my hand. The guests watched as I turned toward the aisle. Daniel's voice cracked behind me. Where are you going? I stopped for a moment. Didn't turn around. Just spoke one last time. You're finally going to learn what losing everything feels like. And then I walked away. Not running. Not crying. Just walking. Every step felt lighter than the last. Behind me, I could hear voices rising again. Arguments. Shock. Disbelief. But it no longer mattered. Because the life I thought I was building had already ended before I ever walked down that aisle. Outside the venue, the air felt different. Quieter. Real. Sarah exhaled heavily beside me. You okay? She asked softly. I looked back at the building for a moment. The place that was supposed to be the beginning of my forever. Instead, it had become the end of a lie. Yes, I said finally. I'm more okay than I've ever been. Inside, the chaos continued. But I didn't need to see it anymore. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's walking away and never looking back. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to like this story, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the next story might be even darker and even more shocking than this one.